Alright, today we're going to be digging into a carburetor on a 2005 KTM 50 motorcycle. I've got the entire throttle assembly off at this point, and I'm going to show you how to disassemble the throttle cable out of the throttle housing as well as the throttle cable out of the carburetor, so you can do whatever's easiest for you to remove this carburetor completely. First thing you're going to do is to remove the throttle cable out of the throttle housing. There are two Allen bolts here, the 4mm Allens. To remove these, you just loosen this up, and again, this is obviously going to be on the motorcycle at this point, but just to keep things simple, I want to take everything off. You go ahead and pull that cover off there, and then you have your throttle tube sticking out right here. Now the next thing, I like to twist it, and then you can take and you want to get to your throttle cable into that groove there, so you can just take and kind of just pull on it there, and it'll pull right out of that throttle tube. And then you're able to set that throttle tube aside. You take and pull this cap up, and you'll be able to see your throttle cable right there. You line up these grooves here, and you're able just to slide that throttle cable out of this housing, and your housing is now off, and your cable is now out. So I'm going to set that aside there. Now we're going to go through this carburetor. And now that we have the cable unhooked from the throttle housing, we're able to keep it on the bench a little bit easier. First thing I'm going to do is show you how to pull the throttle cable out of the actual slide here. So you've got, on this carburetor, you've got flat screws on this top cap, and it is spring loaded. So I like to take my two fingers here and hold on this cap to make sure that it doesn't go flying off. More than likely it's not going to go flying far because you got that cable hooked up to it, but just want to make sure that all those pieces are held together. The pieces don't go flying out of there. So flat screwdriver, take these two screws out, set them aside here, and then you can take and slide that cap. Everything comes off. So you've got your slide, you've got your needle here, you've got a plastic bushing here, you've got your spring, and then your cap here. So when I'm taking the throttle cable out, since it's unhooked from the throttle housing, up top there, your twist throttle, you're going to have a whole lot of slack here. If it was still hooked up to the throttle housing, this spring would be loaded, and it'd be a little more of a challenge to get this off. I'm going to show you how I do it if that throttle housing is still attached. I put that cable run through my middle fingers here, and I just kind of pull that cable up like this. Keep that bushing attached to the spring there, and then what you can do next is take that cable then and pinch it, and you can push it out, and you can see what happens here is there's two grooves in here for your throttle cable, and you want to slide that out the larger groove. So now we've got that out, I can take and release that spring, release that cable, and set that aside. If you are wanting to remove that cable, if you're replacing that cable, you just got to take it out of that bushing there, and it will slide up out of that spring and out of this cap here. You just have to unscrew it. All right, to put this cable back together into this throttle housing, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that at this point. We've got a nut here that's going to sit down in that position there. Probably going to fall out again by the end of it, so I'm not going to put that on quite yet. And this cable is going to need to run through and stick out this area. We're going to slide that on the throttle housing there. I'm going to take and slide that throttle into that position there. What you're going to do then is slide it into that groove. And then I turn this just so it doesn't fall out of there. It's obviously not going to fall out completely because it's hooked in that throttle tube, but I don't want it to fall out of that position there. So next thing you're going to do is put this nut on here, slide that into the position there, and I'm going to take our throttle housing other half here, and that's going to slide into a groove. Now at that point we can take our 4mm Allen, snug this up, and obviously most of the time you're going to be doing this on the motorcycle. I want to take it off so I could show you how to replace it with a steady hand here on the bench. Then we can just snug that up. When your throttle on the other side is hooked up to your carburetor, there'll be tension on this cable, so it kind of adds a little bit of a challenge there. You can see how we were sliding it in and out right there. That wouldn't be the case if we were in the carburetor there. So then we take this cap, and all you do at this point, push that cap on there, and you can adjust that to where it needs to be. I don't like to have these grooves lined up when you're adjusting them, so if you need to adjust it slightly off, go ahead and do that. So that is a throttle cable replacement, or possibly even a throttle tube replacement on the KTM 50. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Please share this video with your friends and family. And if you have questions or comments, please leave that below. Thanks for watching.